What if you woke up inside a medieval city where the walls promised safety but danger lived in the air, the water, and the streets beneath your feet? Mist hangs low over damp fields, clinging to furrows of freshly turned earth and drifting slowly toward a pale ring of stone, rising from the morning haze. Smoke seeps from hundreds of chimneys, flattening against the cold sky, while bells begin to toll from unseen towers, their echoes rolling across the river like a warning that never fully fades. Above the crowded roofs, the vast, unfinished mass of York Minster looms like a mountain of scaffolding and stone, its silhouette cutting into the light. Tonight, you walk through York around the year 1300, not as legend or postcard, but as lived reality, a dense, noisy, restless world of trade, faith, filth, hierarchy, and fragile survival. Rebuilt through archaeology, tax rolls, court records, and AI reconstruction, this is the city as it functioned more than 7 centuries ago. 3 movements: gate, market, minster. Each step reveals what the walls cannot protect you from. Modern York still carries the bones of this world in its streets and walls, but York in 1300 is not quaint, not quiet, not frozen. It is a living organism of smoke, mud, voices, and risk. York holds perhaps 10 to 15,000 bodies inside its walls, a rival to London in influence, wealth, and political significance, a place where royal government briefly relocates under Edward I, where decisions shaping the kingdom pass through chambers hidden behind timbered facades. Yet from the outside, at first light, the city appears almost serene. The walls stretch nearly 2 miles, pale and solid, interrupted by fortified gatehouses whose towers bristle with battlements and arrow slits, stone declarations of order against a countryside shaped by uncertainty, violence, and seasonal hunger. Within that ring lies a tight knot of roofs, lanes twisting irregularly like veins in a body, churches rising everywhere, chimneys exhaling the breath of thousands of fires. As you approach along a muddy southern road, the illusion of calm dissolves into movement. Pack horses lurch forward under bales of wool wrapped in rough sacking. Carts creak beneath sacks of grain. Barrels knock against wooden frames, and animals protest their fate with sharp, panicked cries. The ground is churned into slick mud by hooves, wheels, boots, and bare feet, every step unstable, every stumble costly. Ahead, Micklegate Bar rises like a blunt stone fist across the road. The gatehouse towers overhead, its archway swallowing light, its iron-banded doors heavy with authority, its portcullis channels framing the possibility of sudden closure. Guards wrapped in thick cloaks watch the flow of bodies and goods with tired suspicion. Spears angled, eyes alert not just for enemies, but for evasion, smuggling, dispute. Here, everything slows. An official steps forward holding a wax tablet and stylus, his voice flat with repetition as he calls for tolls, fees, permissions, the small payments that sustain urban wealth and civic power. Coins pass through narrow slots into unseen hands. Arguments flare in tight, tense bursts. Traders calculate delay against profit, risk against necessity. Nothing enters freely. Nothing leaves without cost. Delay means exposure to cold, to theft, to lost opportunity, to the subtle but constant pressure of being watched. When at last the final coin clinks, you pass beneath the stone arch. The air changes first. Sound thickens. Inside the walls, the road narrows immediately, hemmed in by timber-framed houses whose upper stories lean outward over the street on heavy brackets, beams darkened by smoke and time, plaster patched and uneven, the sky reduced to a crooked ribbon of pale light overhead. Underfoot, the street is a filthy, shifting ribbon of churned earth, scattered straw, animal dung, and discarded waste, split by a shallow central gutter carrying rainwater, refuse, blood, and the runoff of daily life downhill toward ditches and rivers. Nothing here is clean for long. The smell arrives next, layered and relentless. Wood smoke, manure, sweat, rotting scraps, wet leather, damp wool, and something sharper drifting from nearby slaughterhouses, metallic and sweet. Noise presses in from all sides. Hammers ring against metal in a smithy. Voices shout prices and warnings. A child cries somewhere unseen. Chickens scatter beneath boots. A dog snarls over a scrap, and a priest threads through the crowd with his cloak brushing mud, lips moving in hurried prayer or muttered irritation. York is awake. In a city of thousands living cheek by jowl, privacy is rare, silence temporary, distance almost non-existent. Bodies press shoulder to shoulder. There is nowhere to fall. Narrow lanes twist unpredictably between houses, workshops, taverns, yards, and churches, creating a maze where trade thrives, gossip spreads, disputes ignite, and danger travels quickly through confined space. As you turn into a darker, tightening lane, daylight fades into shadow. The shambles closes around you like a crooked tunnel of timber and plaster. Upper floors leaning so close they nearly meet overhead, turning midday into perpetual twilight. Iron hooks jut from beams above open-fronted butcher shops, and slabs of raw meat rest on thick wooden counters, pale fat gleaming in the dim light. A cleaver rises, falls. Bone splits with a dull, final crack. Blood streaks across wood, droplets freckling sleeves and forearms, while flies gather almost instantly, drawn by heat and scent. Between shops, narrow passages lead back to cramped slaughter yards where animals are killed, skinned, gutted, and reduced to commerce. Their blood and offal sluiced into the central gutter that runs sluggish and red-streaked downhill. The smell is overwhelming. Yet this is abundance made visible. Fresh meat in a medieval city is wealth, security, power, nourishment, if you can pay. Cleaver falls again. Business continues. Step away from the butcher's shadows, and the street opens suddenly into pavement, where market stalls cluster beneath sagging canvas shelters stretched over wooden frames. Bolts of coarse woolen cloth lie rolled on trestles. Baskets overflow with onions and leeks. Barrels of salted fish stand beside earthenware pots, and vendors shout in rhythmic cadences polished by repetition. Hands touch goods, weigh quality, count coins. Prices fluctuate with harvests. A failed season means hunger measured not in abstractions, but in days and weeks. Nearby, a church bell tolls the hour. Several people pause instinctively, crossing themselves, murmuring brief prayers before trade resumes with barely a break in tempo. Faith punctuates the day, dividing time into sacred intervals that regulate work, obligation, fear, and hope. In the mud near the edge of the square, children crouch laughing over games scratched into earth, pushing small bone tokens along drawn lines, tossing carved dice that bounce unpredictably before vanishing beneath a stall in a scramble of hands and delighted shouts. The city is harsh. The city is alive. Down a narrower side lane, the world tightens again into work and rhythm. Inside a craftsman's workshop, dim light filters through a small leaded window onto a wooden loom dominating the room, its beams clacking steadily as hands flick a shuttle back and forth, feet working treadles with practiced precision. Cloth grows slowly, thread by thread. Patience transformed into survival. Against one wall hangs a painted board depicting a saint. A guttering candle stub below, smoke curling upward. Work fills the room. Work fills the day. Work is entry into York's guild world. Networks of craftsmen and merchants who regulate trade, control quality, train apprentices, defend privilege, and exclude outsiders. Skill is inheritance earned through years of apprenticeship. Youth traded for uncertain future security. A gamble measured in discipline, endurance, luck. We know this because the records survive. Guild lists, tax rolls, court cases. The pattern is clear. Through the back door, a tiny yard reveals a pig rooting among scraps and a crude privy standing over a pit, workshop and home compressed into a few square meters, where labor, family, waste, and rest merge without separation. Comfort exists elsewhere. Closer to the Minster, houses grow larger, smarter, built of better timber and stone, roofed with tile instead of flammable thatch. Inside a wealthier hall, smoke-blackened beams arch above a central hearth where fire crackles warmly, light flickering across pewter dishes, polished cups, painted chests, and imported glazed jugs. A merchant studies bundles of parchment, accounts, rents, shipments of wool drawn from countryside flocks and distant markets. Wealth here rests on networks, harvests, trade routes, political stability, luck. Comfort is real, but never secure. Outside, the gutters still run. Above all, York Minster dominates. Its vast facade rises like a stone cliff, scaffolding clinging to unfinished towers, statues staring from niches, doors yawning open. Inside, space erupts upward into ribbed vaults and stained glass spilling crimson, blue, and gold across pale stone floors, where merchants, craftsmen, nobles, beggars, and clergy kneel side by side beneath the same canopy. Faith governs medieval life. Time measured by bells, fear shaped by doctrine, hope structured by salvation. Yet beneath splendor lies something darker. Gutters choke with refuse, waste drains into ditches, vermin thrive in warmth and rot, and stagnant stretches collect filth where the city cannot flush it away. Infection circulates through crowded bodies, polluted water, compromised air, an invisible ecology of parasites and disease woven into daily existence. In 1300, the Black Death has not yet reached York. The conditions that will later it are already everywhere. As night falls, markets empty, shadows stretch long between timbered walls, rats scurry along stone, dice rattle in hidden alleys, drunken voices blur into murmurs, and watchmen pace slowly along battlements beneath a sky darkening over a city that glows faintly with scattered hearths. York sleeps, not safe, only waiting. York, 1300. The bell rings again.